All right, we're back in for the first time in a couple weeks. I guess Santangelo said he like that Milan podcast is just a random title for this because we don't have one. We're not going to have one. I don't feel like thinking of one. Um, but we have a guest again, a good friend of ours. One of our other friends, Gio, couldn't make it, but we have Dan Russo in here. I'm sure if you follow either myself or Matt, especially me, you would see Dan pop up on the TL for Twitter. Big Napoli fan, personal friend of mine. So if you see other Napoli fans complain that they don't get on the channel, this is literally because he's a really good friend of mine. So don't take it to heart, please, but probably will. Anyways, Santangelo, Dan, how are you guys doing after this international break from Italy that had a win and a loss?
I'll let Dan go first. The guest of honor.
All right. Thank you, Matt. No, I'm just thankful to be on, and thank you guys for having me on also. And where to start with that? Really hard to go from watching Napoli to then go to watch whatever that was. Especially the first half of that England game. I don't know. I'm tired of watching Mancini's Italy. That's really where I am. That's really where I am. It's completely different than 2021.
It's just, no, on the topic of them, this is like, I don't even know exactly what the plan was. Like, they knew, like, they had solidified starters at pretty much almost every position. Even if Immobile wasn't, the greatest for the national team, at least they knew almost in every single facet of who would go where. I still think they have that with the fullbacks and the midfield to an extent, but everything else is a mess. So that's like, well, the goalkeeper as well. So you're really talking about, I don't know, so anywhere between 5 to 6 positions that are unclaimed by players, whether it's injuries or just pure talent. But there's no 11 confusion at all for Napoli. This right here, Dan and Matt, you get mad at me all the time, Dan. You think I'm jinxing you guys. I told you
because you are.
I'm not. How am I jinx? It's like literally mathematically. It's not a game. Every single. I know you're kidding, but actual people think like I don't believe in this shit. All right, like I grew up. All right, I don't believe in jinxes. But seriously, it's just been pure dominance all season. You've gotten off to great starts in the past couple of years, especially under Spalletti. You obviously faded away. There's injury stuff, but I don't like that Allegri injury card. Spalletti hasn't used it like that, but Allegri was using that earlier this year. Like Pioli and Milan have those issues. Inter and Inzaghi have those issues. You don't hear these other clubs complain about it. It was just one manager. But again, this shows how good you are with full strength. It's just been unstoppable. And not a lot of people expected this, including myself, for you guys to hit the ground running because there was a lot of interchangeable pieces coming in. Insigne left, Fabian Ruiz, whether or not he was the greatest of players, he was still a very good player for you guys when he was on.
He was important. He was a starting player. So
and then, well, technically you also lose your goalkeeper, even though he wasn't that impressive at all in Ospina. But replacing Koulibaly was going to be the most difficult task of all. And you did that as well as you could have. And it was really exceptional with Kim Min-jae. He's been insane coming over from Turkey. If they finish, they're going to win the league at this point. There's no jinx that you think could work with this. You would have to lose everything, and then Milan.
We would have to literally just stop showing up for games.
Yes. Yeah. Just like that one COVID situation. But I know. That's only to annoy some people.
That's another can of worms.
Yes. But this is, if you beat us also in the Champions League, you go to the semifinals or the final. Technically, by achievements, this is the greatest Napoli side of all time. Because this is just, they have everything. I don't see a weakness in this team. Maybe defensive depth might be the only argument, but this team is incredible. So how's it been just like being able to watch this as a lifelong suffering fan of this club?
Dude, you said it perfectly right there. Lifelong suffering. If people that have seen my Twitter or follow me know that, like, I want to say on average 6 or 7 times a year, I tweet, my father's not going to see the gates of heaven for making me a fan of this club. So, like, this year I haven't had to tweet it once.
Yeah, you have.
I mean, so there you go. It's literally, it's like magical every time watching the team. I can't believe it. I can't believe what I'm watching when I watch them play. I've never seen another Serie A team play the way we have this year.
No.
Not saying they're the best that I've ever seen in the Serie A team. In my opinion, that's just not what I'm saying. I'm saying in terms of style of play, what they're doing on the field, I've never seen it in the Serie A. So it's truly a sight to behold.
Yeah,
Man.
there's like I would agree there, Dan. I think look, it's one thing to get results, right? Because we've seen the results and the table and the consistent winning under Juventus and under Allegri, and people will, if you peel back the curtain, you look at more deeper stats and the way they play, it's not aesthetically pleasing, but they're getting results, and everyone says winning is all that counts, right? And I would agree in most cases with that. But they got rid of Allegri to bring in Sarri because of what Sarri did in Napoli, because they wanted the aesthetically pleasing football. They wanted to play attractive football and play in a different way that was less pragmatic with under Allegri. But Napoli's mending two of those, right? They're getting like really commanding, lopsided results in their favor, and they're doing it in a way that's aesthetically pleasing, which is like a perfect type of way that you would love to see Napoli play, right? Like, if you can get both of those, it just makes it that much more refreshing to watch, right? You're not getting, these 1-0 shithousery results that like Juventus got, and there's more than one way to skin a cat here, right? Whatever the terminology is.
Yeah, I don't know that one, bro.
You get a point, right? You get the point, right? So the way that Napoli are doing this is really impressive, and they're doing with such command, poise, and for them to be able to do it just right after the exodus of some very core players that have been there, not just like good players, but players that have been like the bedrock and the foundation of those really strong Napoli teams that, they didn't win the title, but they really did play good football. They got great results. They, kind of attracted the masses around Europe as to what they were doing, but they never had the title to put to that, right? And I think that's what you're starting to see this year. And look, we're Milan fans, right? Me and Martino, and I'm watching Napoli, and I'm looking at the way they're doing everything on a weekly basis, and it's really impressive. And I'm not old enough to go back to, the previous title and, some of the previous dominant teams of Serie A in the past to really sort of see where they stack up. But it's really hard to kind of put in the same conversation of those teams in the past to what they're doing this year. I really haven't seen a team do this. Again, play really attractive football, get the results week in and week out, and really not skip a beat. They don't look like they're slowing down at all. I know we had the results that we saw a couple weeks ago against Lazio, and then to start the year against Inter, and everyone was like, is there opportunity for someone to creep in? And they've done a great job of just moving on from a potentially, mid result and just absolutely thrashing the next team, whether it be in Europe, whether it be in Serie A. And that's a testament to Spalletti. It's a testament to Gentoli for the work he's done in recruiting the right players and getting Spalletti the players he needs to carry out his style of football and carry out his vision for this Napoli. So it's been really impressive to watch.
Look, Matt, I think you touched perfectly on it. Also, what I wanted to add, I've thought about it a lot this season while watching the games, thinking about what am I actually watching here? And really what I think it is, it's like a combination. I don't know if you guys remember the Mazzarri days.
Yeah, of course.
Mazzarri days, like those games, we would go up against Chelsea or like City in the Champions League, and I didn't have any fear of those games, even though the team is technically far inferior to what we see today. But I had no fear because that was what Mazzarri instilled in the players, this belief that they can actually do things that they normally wouldn't be capable of doing. Spalletti is, in my opinion, the top player of this team because he's the piece. He was our missing piece because he was able to give that belief to very talented players at the same time, which if you go back to Saturday days, he was able to have, these very talented players, but I don't really think those players believe that they can actually do it at the end of the day. And that's what killed us.
Yeah. Well, here's my question for this, because I've thought about this too. I think what's helped a lot of this team in particular was not understanding the pressure to an extent of playing there.
Yeah.
When you're in there for like the first season, you just come and you're just there to play football. Like,
Just vibe.
there was no expectations to win the title this season.
There
Like
wasn't.
there's been in the past.
There really was no pressure to, like, for
No.
example, that one summer where they were like, oh, we're not making any signatures, we're not selling anyone, it's a Scudetto pact, they called it. I don't know if you guys remember, and that just heaped on so much pressure onto the team. And what happened at the end? They lose that game 3-0 against Fiorentina, and that's it. You know,
I mean, I think that's just like an unfortunate season too, and that's just further proof of like what we saw last year with Milan and then what we see this year with Napoli is that you don't know when it could be your year. Things could break your way, and also like to the point, like whatever you give Juve back their 15 points, they're on 56. They're still 15 points back of Napoli. So it doesn't even matter what Juve would do. Okay. So like just for context for other people with this, I think like when you get guys like Kim and Jay, already a professional in his mid-20s, Victor just needed to stay healthy. I think everybody knew that. Kvara, quite simply, for the amount of money that was purchased or spent on him, I think there's only two other signings as of today that are better in Serie A, the 21st century, and that's Kaká to Milan and Pogba. If you want to count Pogba to you,
that you can even
it costs nothing.
That are even comparable to that, yeah.
And again, he's gonna, he's fit. You guys get to the semifinals. You beat Milan, or say you even get to the finals. Kvara's finishing. He should finish top 10 in the Ballon d'Or. He has to.
I think so.
I don't see how he can.
I think both of them do, to be honest.
Yeah.
If we do get to the final.
If they get to the final, yeah. I mean, what's the argument at this point? You dominate your league. That does very well.
That the bias and the agendas against Serie A again, and they don't. But I mean, you can point to the fact that look, Leao had a phenomenal season last year, was MVP, and then Milan won the title, and he finished top 15.
I think he was like top 20. I'm not sure if he was like yeah. In the
I thought it was pretty like within the top 20.
For whatever reason, I think 13 comes to mind. I don't know why, but I feel like that,
which was incredible. But I think if you look at the numbers and you look at the manner in which like Kvara the entire season, I mean, since match day 1, he was firing, and everyone's like, "Who is this guy? Like, can this guy keep up?" And has he had a match that you can point to, or a stretch of games you can point to, where he's not been effective in some capacity? I mean,
exactly.
This sounds kind of maybe like an exaggeration, but when there's games that I don't watch of Napoli, or I'm kind of in and out on the weekend, and I see what the results are in Serie A, it's Osimhen, Kvara, goal or assist, and or goal or assist, and he's doing every game. Like there's such command. He's taking every game by the scruff, and I think that's the sign of a really strong player, but a player that's also been wired by the coach to be put in positions to succeed. Right? It's one thing to get a good player, and you can kind of draw some parallels or differences, if you will, between Milan getting Di Titolare, who big fee, big expectations, Champions League background with Club Rouge, and we always talk about week to week how he hasn't been put in the right positions, whether it be minutes, whether it be position on the field to succeed. Whereas when Kvara comes in by force because they lost Insigne, Spalletti's like, go out there, do your thing. Go out there and do what we brought you in to do. And he's able to play and dictate games with such dominance. So, yeah, I would be stunned if he doesn't make the top 15, honestly. Maybe top 10 a possibility. But the fact that
top 10,
they're going after a double here.
I think it is a little bit unfair to De Ketelaere, the comparison as well. I don't
think he's been put in the right position.
I think it does affect him more. Kvara being here in the same season, them going to the Serie A in the same season, having their debut season be the same, just because of the fact like what Kvara's doing is just not normal. It isn't
exactly.
Normal.
It's people. This is why I don't like Twitter. It's like why I don't even like Twitter anymore. Everyone thinks that you have to hit the ground running immediate. Like, bro, if you go look at Gattuso's first season at Milan, okay, the guy went to Scotland at one point, and he came back, and he was one of the greatest Italian midfielders ever. Pirlo struggled at Inter, Okay, I mean, just there's obviously other players too that are in their prime and struggle at top clubs. Like it doesn't mean a thing. Like even Chucky Lozano, like look how long it took for him to settle with Napoli. He was a bigger purchase than both of these guys.
Yeah,
Chucky went for 40, and he came from a better league at the time.
almost combined fee, right?
He was like 40 plus. It was the same summer that him and Manolas were purchased. That was
Yeah.
the really big summer for you guys. Manolas was probably the biggest flop that I've seen besides Bonucci within the league. Like it just doesn't work out.
The biggest flop in terms of Napoli signings.
Napoli,
Absolutely.
I don't think it's close, man. You don't have many to begin with. And the funny thing is, I know I messed up the last name, but Ostergaard, right? Or did I say it right?
Ostergaard, yeah, you're good.
Okay, so I did say it right. Ostergaard, we didn't even talk about him because he hasn't really even had a season worth talking about because he hasn't started over Rahmani.
He can't play.
Exactly.
How do you take any of those guys out?
Exactly. And to me, I just think this was just the perfect season for him. I do think you lose Zielinski at this point. I think that's just like obvious and they're okay with it. But just this was all fueled by smart business over the course of a very, very long time. This does not happen overnight. You know, Napoli, you guys had to fail multiple times in the Champions League group stage, round of 16, within Serie A, retool, rebuild, reload, whatever phrase you want to use. It just wasn't an overnight thing. And teams that were so good that you could say, yeah, they were worthy of winning the title, but there's Juve with unlimited resources. This is what happens when you financially keep yourself as a stable club over the course of years. And they're doing it the right way because it's not like they're going to be able to get 300 million from a TV deal because the league is doing great. That's not the case. They don't own their own stadium. This is your first ever quarterfinals in the Champions League. There's so many things to it. I think the confidence is sky high. And even worst case scenario now, Dan and Matt, is Napoli sell one of these two superstars for over 100 million. And they already showed this summer that they could replace whoever, and it doesn't matter. And I'm not saying you're going to replace Osimhen like for like, but who's to say at this point you don't get a Højlund?
Okay.
Right? Like, I mean, that's with a fraction of the money that you spent, okay? That you get for Victor. Say Victor goes for at least 150. I don't see why Real Madrid or Manchester United aren't in on him. Just as two clubs in general, or even PSG. And that's just to say that. But we face you this weekend. I think one of the best matches in Serie A this season, guys, was the first matchup between these two at San Siro. Napoli have had our number the past decade, 15 years, whatever you want to say, since they came back up at San Siro, especially during the 2010s. Well-deserved. I thought it should have been a draw if Kalulu knew how to finish.
Absolutely.
And it's not even by me saying like deserved or not. Napoli deserved the win because Milan couldn't finish the chances. But even if you go back to look at that game, that is not the same Milan that we see today.
No.
Really, really poor. It's very frustrating to see because something happened. And I don't know what to say. Me and Matt have been trying to figure that out for months now. But going into Napoli, it's just this right here for me as a not a Napoli fan. If I were you guys, I know there's been a couple of things like I think the Juve victory was like, okay, no doubt we're winning the league now because I know there were some question marks going in to 2023. It's like, okay, yeah, but let's see how we do on the reboot because we usually slip up around this time of the year. Didn't happen. I feel like everyone knows you're going to win the league. You beat the defending champions at home now for a second time this season. Like that's like it's just a celebration until the end of May. That's really what it is. Do you think you slip up in any way this weekend, or is it just business as usual? Because you do face Milan two other times in arguably way more important matches. I don't even think it's arguable at this point.
Arguable.
Yeah, I know. I call myself like that. I mean, yeah. What do you think?
I think we draw this game. To be honest,
I hope.
I don't. It's. Then again, I went into that Juve game thinking we were going to lose, and then look, you know what happened. But
record win.
Honestly, that was the game that. Never mind. We're talking about the Napoli Milan, so
that's okay.
Get back on track. But I think with Leao being there, it's going to be a completely different game. There's going to be a whole different, Spalletti actually has to prepare for Leao now. In the last game, he didn't have to. So that definitely is a factor. I think we go down first in the game and come back. I don't know why. It's just a sensation. There's literally no reason for me to say that. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just because I got two Milanisti here. That's why I'm saying it. But yeah, I mean, other than that, my head's kind of been mostly on the Champions League games rather than the Serie A game, and I really hope that that's not also the case for the players.
Matt, yeah, sorry, I've been rambling. There you go.
It's really, it's really hard to kind of hammer down this Milan team and what result we're going to get on a given week. Because obviously we all know how poorly they started in 2023. And then they had a stretch of games where they were clean sheeting teams. They had a really impressive result against Atalanta, a team that can score goals, will bring guys forward, and they clean sheeted them. They looked strong in all facets of that game, really dominated that game. They took advantage of a injured Tottenham and a Tottenham team in turmoil. And since then, really, the results have been absolutely dreadful. You got absolutely handled by Fiorentina in their yard. You tied Salernitana, a team that is clinging to salvation hopes. And then you absolutely get smothered by Udinese's team that, historically is, or at least in recent memory, is a team that will play a gritty, throw a bunch of guys in the box that are 6'5", like Becao and him. It's one of those games where we can't score, they don't score, and it's a 0-0 or a 1-1. They beat you 3-1, and they did it in a way that looked exactly like the Milan before their little turnaround. What can I put to this team to think that they're going to get a draw against a Napoli team that's handled and really battered everybody in their path? I know, Dan, you're the guest here and you're trying to be, polite and all that stuff, and I appreciate that. But for me as a Milan fan, I've just seen the results week to week this year, and it's really hard to imagine they're going to get anything from this. I think their mindset is potentially on how to navigate the matches against Napoli in the Champions League. Because obviously, look, the title's gone. A lot of teams in Serie A have slipped up around them to put them in a conversation still that is pretty favorable for top four if you really look at how the table shakes up right now.
If Juve get their points back, yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I know Leao is a difference maker. He wasn't in the first game because of suspension. I get that.
Victor was also out.
They're
people
right
forget.
Now, they're a one-trick pony, right? Like, even with Leao, he hasn't had a goal in what I think
Salernitana, since the first match of the new year.
Or Salernitana, right? Like, he hasn't produced anything, and it's down to some poor finishing, yes, but it's also down to some
awful finishing
that the defenses are blanketing him. They know where the outlet pass is going to go. They know if they can cover the left flank, him and Teo become isolated, and really it's Giroud trying to defend for himself, and they've been figured out. And scoring goals has been a real problem. So I just don't know if they're going to get anything from this, to be honest with you. I just don't feel optimistic. Yeah.
So for me with this as well. So what we take away from the first, no, you're fine. What you take away from the first one was, okay, no Rafael Leao. Yeah, but the best player arguably in the league also wasn't there, and that's Victor. So for me, that's null and void. It's a wash at that point. I think you make a great point, and I think, I'm not saying it's unfair to say Leao has not been as good as the other guys. I think that's just like a fair, objective thing to say. But I also think context matters. Kvara and Osimhen play together. Okay? That's great. That's incredible. They're incredible players. They're a great duo. No one's disputing that. But I'm just saying I'd like to see one of the two switch with Rafa and see how it works out. Because I don't think you're the same prolific player. It's very easy. It's a lot easier as a defense when you just see one guy out on the left that's your only threat. The other guy is going to be somebody in Giroud that will be difficult to mark in the box, but he's only a threat if he's in the box and the team is pressuring you. If the right wing isn't a threat, if centrally isn't a threat, then what are you worried about? You just double the guy on the side who can't finish. Because if he can't finish, then he's just trying to cross. And then at that point, whatever, he beats one man, Giroud should be doubled. And even then, he's at the age that he can't be beating everybody, and he has only so many aerial duels that he could win. Okay. And it was a very fortunate goal that he scored last year away. I mean, right place, right time. Obviously, that's a skill thing as well, but you can't expect to repeat that stuff. That's unsustainable play. Okay. The way Napoli play is very sustainable. The way Milan do, it's like if Rafa's not checked in, then what's happening? Probably nothing.
Yeah.
And that's just a recipe for finishing or fighting for top four because there's no other way that they're going to be able to pull this off. I think on almost every single facet in these teams, Napoli have us beat outside a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
That's it. And now what happened in the first leg as well that I wanted to make as the last point before you guys could make your points is that Kvara got bullied and kicked during the first match. Okay. He didn't do too much, but his worst match was still winning a penalty and causing havoc.
Yeah.
So if that's the worst version of a player, then look out what's going to happen this one when he also has his striker back. Okay. It's going to be totally different. Oh, and by the way, Pierre Kalulu, arguably your most athletic center back, is not going to be in this one. So you have to put a slow Chiesa in or it's a slow Calabria at right back. So either way, advantage Napoli. On top of all the scoring stuff we talked about. This is not in favor of Milan. Milan should not be favored. If they get a draw, they should pray to the high heavens that they got it because they don't deserve it. And the only reason that they would be getting a result in this is because they've rejuvenated and refreshed their minds after the international break.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no other reason as to, for me as to why I see this going differently. Because they're just not good enough. They're not on Napoli's level.
There's nothing that you can kind of latch onto, right? Like even in the moments where, you know, Milan were playing well in that pocket of form, like around February. You know, yes, they were maybe still not scoring goals. They really don't put double the goals on the score sheet. It's typically 1-0, very tight, very nervy finishes to some of their wins. And, you know, obviously, you know, some teams have to do certain things to win games. I get that. But in a match like this, it's not like they have something that they could kind of latch onto and say, hey, you know what, maybe we're not creating enough clear-cut chances in front of goal, which, again, I think that would be a myth because Milan do create a pretty good amount of chances. They just don't convert. They're not efficient. But they don't even have that, hey, we're playing great defensively to lean onto. You know, we can at least maybe stymie Napoli a little bit, slow them down, keep the game in front of us, and maybe we can play a gritty, you know, 0-0, 1-1 draw type thing with Napoli looking more so for the Champions League games. They're not playing well defensively either. They're out of position. This little run they went on, it looks like it was short-lived. It doesn't look like they're catching wind at the right time. Like last year at this point, they were playing defensively. Midfield, Benasser, Tonali were rock solid. Those two players don't look like the same players this year. So they have, to your point, Martino, really nothing kind of to cling to say, yeah, but we're defending well. At least we can play that sort of style and try to at least get a result from this. But we've seen Milan surprise us, right? They'll have a stinker, and then they'll get up for a match like this, and they'll put in a performance, and you're like, where did this come from? So it's hard to really kind of hammer down what type of Milan we're going to get, but I just don't feel like I have any sort of expectation that's good for this one.
Yeah, so for my prediction for this one, I think Napoli win by the same scoreline. I think we would be lucky to score at the Diego Maradona Stadium now. I don't think that's going to happen. I know Dan's just being respectful, and it's fair points. It's not like it's out of the realm of possibility, but I don't see how we go in there and get anything more than a draw. That's for sure. If Milan win there, it's because Napoli let them because they want to rotate, which is another huge advantage for you guys. If we want to talk about the UCL real quick as well. I mean, this is just a historical draw. It's the first time we ever met in Europe. I think this is the first Italian team we faced in the knockout stages since Inter as well.
Yep.
You have the massive advantage in this. Milan still have to get top 4 in the league. Literally Milan's options right now are you win the Champions League or you have to finish top 4. What's going to happen? If Milan win the Champions League, like I told people, call us Leicester City. That's okay. That's
whatever.
Literally, if we win the Champions League, no team in this league could ever chat to us again. Because if this Milan side won the Champions League, then no one could ever talk. But the advantage is clearly in your favor. And Milan have quote unquote weaker opponents on the schedule. There's Lecce, there's Bologna, there's Empoli. They need those 3 points. If they can get a draw to Napoli, that's great. But Napoli, like we were saying, you guys don't have to get results. It's okay if you actually lose to us. It doesn't matter. What matters is being healthy for quarterfinal legs 1 and 2. So, do you think Spalletti potentially changes the lineup and approach a little bit? Like, does he show his full hand here for what he
Not
might
at all.
show? Right? Okay.
I doubt it, Martino. I just because you see he's had chances before to rotate, and
Yeah.
he just doesn't care. I don't see it happening against Milan, especially because it's gonna be a spectacle, that game. You know what I mean? It's gonna be a
For you
game where
guys,
he
yeah.
wants to. No, but in the sense, like, it's gonna be a show
I
to
know,
put
I
on
know,
for the
I
Serie
know.
A. You know what I mean?
Self-deprecation, bro. Let me do
There's just no way. I just don't see. Maybe something different with the left backs. Maybe Oliveira instead of Rui, which I actually doubt, because Rui is pretty important in the way we play.
I think Rui's the perfect guy for this fixture to stir shit. Both
Could
left
be,
backs
yeah.
are shit stirrs, if we're being honest.
By the way,
love
you
them if
said
they-
that we were above you guys in every position but goalie, but I disagree. Left back as well.
Oh yeah, left back too. Yeah, that's not close. Sorry, I forgot.
Like, Theo is the best. He's probably the best in the world. So
Yes, I don't know why I drew a blank on that. Yeah, because I'm not Rui's.
But he's not
biggest
playing
fan.
well. He's not playing that well lately. So
I think he's been a very overrated season. People have him in team of the season. I don't agree with it. It's just like, if you've seen the chances this guy has missed.
The pool of players and competition's not that deep. Like,
yes, I also agree with that. Yeah,
he's another one. I hate him. I hate him with a passion, Theo. But that just testament to how good he is. Because of how I hate him, because of how good he is and how much of a prick he could be on the field. But other than that, there's nothing.
I mean, yes, I mean, so could Mario Rui. Yeah.
Rui's probably like the bootleg version of it. Yeah.
Really mentioned Di Lorenzo, and he's had a great year too.
Di Lorenzo,
I mean, talk about taking the armband with stride, man. Jeez.
Also, another incredible deal. I believe at the time it was like 10 million. From Empoli,
and he wasn't a spring chicken. It's not like they got like a 21-year-old young right back that
he was already 26, I think 25, 26,
ready to go, and in the right system was going to flourish. And I mean, obviously, like, it's huge also for Italy, right? Like, having that back help. It's been him and Spinazzola can stay healthy and stay consistent. I mean, you have some really good options there.
I mean, he's done very well outside. The only game that he stunk in was the Belgian game. Because he was getting dusted in that one, but either way, like, that was his worst performance, whatever he may have for it after. So prediction for Sunday, I said 2-1 Napoli. Dan,
I say 1-1.
Sant'Angelo,
say 1-0 Napoli. I think Napoli play a pretty polished game. They don't risk a lot going forward. I think they play a tidy defensive game. Milan create some chances, not efficient enough. I think they have some clear-cut chances. I just don't think they get the job done. I do think if they don't get the job done and it's a 1-0 loss, but they do some things well enough that at least gives you some kind of good hope going into those 2 games for the Champions League, I think that's something you can at least latch on to. But they need to show me something, because in recent weeks they've looked terrible, and this is not where you want to be peaking right now, or at least trending upward in some capacity. And they're not doing it right now. They're playing their kind of worse-ish football at this point in time of the season. And then you have Napoli, who bludgeon everybody, it seems, coming up twice in the Champions League. So they really got to be careful. Otherwise, this season could really slip away even quicker than it is right now.
I wanted to ask, sorry, Martino, what if Juve get their points back, does that take Milan out of the top 4?
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, they would get bumped out.
Jeez, yeah.
By that point, it would be
is the more important game for you guys.
It would be Napoli, Juve, Lazio, Inter.
That's crazy.
Lazio's above. Okay,
yeah. That's crazy. I mean, even if they don't get the 15 back, the fact that they're this close with how many games left? 9?
7. There's 7 points with that many games.
Like,
Yeah, listen. I don't think it's that crazy. I'm sorry. I'm gonna come across as a Juve hater, but I don't give a shit. You have the most resources. You spend the most money. You pay the manager more than anyone else in this league. It's actually pathetic where they're at. To be honest with you, if you give them their points back, they're 15 points behind Napoli, who basically do everything the opposite that Juve do.
The complete opposite.
I don't want to hear it. This is the team that everybody like. They were favored to win the league. Okay, them and Inter were both favored to win this league. All right, I'm a betting person here. I know more about betting in this league than anyone else does. Okay, I'm telling you, they were favored to win this shit. All right, and they were still and they're acting like a success because the FIGC wanted to get on them. Okay, and not even to mention that's just the Plus Valenza case. We're not talking about where they clearly were paying players under the table despite being a publicly traded company when saying they were going to do the opposite, which is a fucking crime. That is a crime that affects the stock market. Okay? That's a crime.
They're in such deep shit. It's like
okay, and that penalty didn't even come down yet, and that's if Juve get their 15 points back.
Yeah.
They're also threatened to get more taken away. So even then, and then whatever happens with FFP and UEFA, because we know Chefrin doesn't like them. All right, it doesn't matter if Agnelli's not in the picture. That's Agnelli's baby over there. Okay, so for me, I don't want to hear it with Juve. But yeah, it's still like. The fact that they're that close, I think, expresses a lot of things. 2 questions, Dan. The first one is just going to be the funniest one because it's a constant question, and I think it's fairly obvious at this point. It's a difficult question to ask because I think some people conflate between best Serie A teams in terms of singular season or best Serie A teams over the course of a few years. I think there's a big difference between the two. Singular season. Napoli's easily top 10 all time in this league. I don't care about whatever the Torino teams were back then and this and that. This is a top team of all time, right. Top 10 team. There's no doubt they're going to finish winning the league by at least 15 points. They're completely dominating on both sides of the ball, defensively, offensively. They have the best players. And again, I'm sorry, the league is not as weak as it was 10 years ago. It's just not. There's so many ways to prove this. Both Milan and Inter are actually competitive. Juve is still competitive. They pour in resources up the wazoo. How far do we have 3 teams in the quarterfinals of the Champions League? That's the first time in over a decade for this league. Okay. Juve is probably going to go deep into Europa League as well. Roma's still there as a competitor for Europa League. And we know Lazio dropped out. Fiorentina in the running for Conference League.
Lazio Sarri tax.
Sarri
just hates European.
Of course, he can rotate multiple leagues. We know that, right?
Europa League winner though, no?
Yeah, and then even Atalanta, they're not at the same level as the teams a couple years ago, but they're still competitive enough that that core is still kind of there and that system's in place.
But for even the lower table teams like Cremonese, honestly, Cremonese didn't have a win up until like 3-4 weeks ago. But Roma. Dude, watch them play. They're not bad at all.
Like, I mean, they're in the semifinals of a cup.
That doesn't just come as a fluke. They play some good soccer. If you actually watch the games and not just look at the stats or the score at the end. I mean, even the lower teams, like even Salernitana, can give you a hard game. So I think the league did shoot up a bit, at least a little bit.
Is this the best the league ever was? No. But is it the best it's clearly been in over 10 years? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So why is anyone arguing that is just because they can't concede that Napoli is that good. And it hurts them. And they're insecure about it.
And I love it.
God, I would love it too if I were you. I'd be waiting around. We'll see with the Jets this year with Aaron Rodgers, baby.
Shame we didn't have Gio too, man, because I consider
it's too bad they deleted this episode because me and Gio did a soccer betting show a few years ago, even before COVID happened.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I told Gio this. I didn't believe it would actually happen, but I say you never know because of just the way the sport is. I was like, I don't think it's that impossible Napoli could win the Champions League. I was like, I would never say never. I was like, you never know what could happen. I was like, maybe you get lucky one year. I didn't think this would happen, obviously. But I mean, it's a wide open Champions League. The path is in your favor. If Napoli win the double like this, I think top 5 Italian team of all time, singular season.
It's hard, Martino, because
I
even
know.
you
I
gotta
wouldn't.
also
I
think,
wouldn't say they are.
you gotta
But-
also think about like that team from 04, 05, that Milan team that they didn't win shit, but they were like,
Yeah, thanks.
you watch, you see
Yeah.
any of the lineups from that team, and it's like, how could it even be possible that
I mean,
that
it
team
was
didn't
the
win?
unluckiest final loss of all time.
Yeah.
But
top five would be a little bit tough, but I mean, because right off the rip, the Inter treble winning team is in there.
Yes,
Right off
it's
the rip.
probably
Right.
number one. It's the best Italian
Definitely.
season. Unfortunately,
Definitely.
I don't think they're the best. That's the funny thing. I still don't think they're better than the Sacchi teams or even the Capello teams.
No, they're not. But in terms of like what they
Right?
achieved and
But that's
what they did,
that's the funny thing to me.
Right.
Hey, Napoli do this well. I do think it's the greatest Napoli team of all time.
I don't think it's the debate. I don't know. Someone was trying to debate me on that today on Twitter. I don't know if you saw it all, but he was
Have to
trying
be-
to pull up a bunch of bullshit stats, this, that, and this. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, come on, just like live
Do you
a little. I don't know, like
of the Maradona, it's like I get
Yeah.
people are like so like the emotion attached to that. Like it's different for us to talk about it, you know what I'm saying? Because like I guess like if you're someone who lived through that, you could be like, no, you had to have been there to see Maradona and do that. And I get that. But I think like I don't know, do you guys know how many points they won the league by that year when they had Maradona?
not.
it wasn't by
much.
much because they faced
But
it. It was the
also-
best Italian era of all
Right.
time.
Yeah.
too.
And Matt, I got to tell you, from everyone that I've spoken to, my father included, all those guys from that generation that have seen both teams,
Yeah.
not one person has told me that this isn't the best Napoli team ever.
Yeah. And then there it is.
So, I mean, that's what I base it off of. I mean,
Yeah.
you're basing it off of people that have actually watched it. So,
Yeah. No, it's absolutely fair. I think again, this Napoli team, it's a great great look for the league that you have a team like this doing what they're doing and doing it in such a way that translates over to the Champions League. I mean, that's why part of me is saying if I'm putting on more my Serie A hat for this real quick, more so than just like Milan, Napoli, like league rivals, I would just love to see Napoli retain these players. And we're in such an era where it's
I don't.
this guy's jumping ship, he's going here, and it's like I get that, but like man, like Napoli could have a dynasty here if they are able to keep Osimhen and Cavada for like at least 3 to 4 seasons. Like they
I'd
can
be
run the
stunned,
league.
dude.
You know what I'm saying? Like they could really run the league and create something truly special here. So I would like to see them keep the players.
I wouldn't. I also think one of them gets sold this summer. I think it's Victor.
I think Victor just has he has Premier League in his sights. I don't know how true those interviews were.
I think PSG are getting rid of Neymar, and I think PSG are going to offer a godfatherly amount of a player. De Laurentiis says 150 million. They're paying it. They're going to get rid of Neymar. Someone's going to bite on that. Could be Chelsea. Wouldn't shock me. Dude, like it's just and also if they just wanted to get him, they're going to pay the money. Do I think if anything, one more season? I don't see like also like I think it would be dangerous for Napoli not to also consider an offer like that. It's not to say Victor is injury prone, but there is injury history there that you have to slightly worry about. That like God forbid, okay, the guy stays and then he's a depreciating asset at that point, and he's just.
Martino,
I know you can say that about everybody.
How do you say no to 150 million?
You don't. You accept
How
it.
do
You
you say
run.
no unless it's Messi? How do you say no?
How many
Yeah.
outside of Cristiano Ronaldo and Mbappe? How many of the sales that happened over 100 million worked out for the other team purchasing the player? They don't. You could go look at
Coutinho,
all of it.
there was Dembele, there was who else?
Pogba.
Joao Felix.
Pogba, Lukaku,
Hazard kind of like chunky.
Hazard as well. 1 year left on his deal, 100 million.
Yeah.
The only one you could say Neymar, Mbappe, Cristiano Ronaldo to Juve was still a great deal for them. Financially outside of it, but like Ronaldo did his part. So that's what you could say. Are you eliminating us from the Champions League before we finish this? Because I think you are. I think a huge advantage is that you have the return leg in Napoli. That's huge.
Look, everything that my father and mother have taught me about scaramanzia, which is, if you guys don't know what that is, superstitions, is going out the window right now. I think we do.
Yeah.
I think we do knock you guys out.
I mean, like,
Sadly, or
you guys
happily for me.
Happily for you. It's okay.
confident enough to say we're gonna beat you. We're that type of dominant team. Like, that's fine. There's no difference in that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think some people are afraid to jinx it or to come off as like braggadocious. But it's like I think you look at it, they're clear cut dominant. Like I know the Pep Guardiola sort of mental gymnastics that he's playing. Saying they're better than us. And
he's an asshole.
Yeah.
It's just Milan just don't have enough, and it's like the only way this happens is if Charlie de Ketelare somehow finds his Bruges form and he turns into that dynamic player that they hope they got, and that's the
last
only
time I saw
way.
him as a real player was against us. To be honest, the last time
he
I
played
saw
well
him
in
as
that
a real
one.
player,
They played well in those games, and the guy doesn't get consistent. I'm not going to get into this. I'm not doing this. I do this every day. It's true though. People don't understand the sport. I'm really tired of it. I don't. And then again, I think the winner of this one also goes to the final. I know I respect Benfica. Don't get me wrong. Respect to Cristiano Oliveira. No, just the winner who wins this is going.
What about Porto?
Huh?
Porto.
What about?
Do you? I mean, you're talking about Portuguese teams, right?
They're not in it anymore. I thought they get eliminated.
Right.
It's a Benfica, man. And they got eliminated.
I was like, wait 1 second.
No. It's Chelsea. For those who don't remember, like Matt, Chelsea, Real Madrid, Man City, Bayern. That's
dude.
The other path.
What's funny is like I've been like because of the move into the new place and international break. I feel like I haven't watched league football in like the longest time. That's how much I'm out of it. So I'm like, oh shit, that's right. They're not in anymore.
Listen. And then again, Napoli could still win this entire thing because anything can happen in a final. And again, Napoli's not supposed to be there. So whoever they face on the other side of the bracket is going to be the favorite. Bayern, Real Madrid, Chelsea. Maybe Chelsea would be maybe the only one. But if they somehow make it to the final, people are going to be betting on Chelsea because Chelsea somehow figured it out. But we have a Bayern facing a Man City that just hired Thomas Tuchel. We'll see what happens with that. And then Real Madrid, Ancelotti. Who knows what's going to happen with that tie? I think that tie is the most fascinating one. But again, all it takes is just that one final, and we'll see what happens with that. Dan, thank you so much for coming on, bro. It's always great to talk to you.
Me, bro.
Yeah, of course. The Twitter there. I don't think you don't do anything else at this point. You used to do more Napoli stuff. Or you made a Napoli account, I think. Did I not follow it back?
Like, it's nothing crazy, you know what I mean?
This guy's like changed up like 30 accounts. Like
I used to have the SSCN America account, which was pretty popping, and then
it was, reason, and then you're an idiot, and then
I just deleted the shit. I don't know why.
And you were like, "Well, I don't know why I did it." I was like, "You and Gio are the same person. Like you just."
We kind of. That's why we get along. And I was gonna say before, telling Gio a few years ago, we would win the Champions League sometime. Knowing Gio the way I do, he would have definitely told you to go fuck yourself.
He couldn't say it, but he did give me the dirty look. What are you talking about? He also gave me that about the Scudetto too. I was like, yo, you're absolutely winning one. I was like, you're winning.
He's gotten much better at it. He's gotten much better. I'll tell you what, over the years. But that dude is the most pessimistic kid I've ever met in my life.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
I don't know. I get told. I don't know. It's close.
Every video. I remember I would see the poster for like YouTube, whatever, like match reaction. He would just be like, you'd think they were losing every game.
Yeah.
Like they didn't do this well.
We won 5-1 against Juve. Oh, but we let in the goal. That's what he is.
Yeah, exactly.
He also, I think what it is. I'm not trying to speak for him. I think the second that Fiorentina match happened years back, he was like, "There's no hope. There's no God." There's no God. Honestly,
God can't be real.
I'm a Mets fan, and for whoever even knows that, it's even more loserdom than Napoli for sure. I'm not even that defeated. I think, yeah, fuck it, maybe one time. But like this guy, you guys are fielding great teams consistently and keeping that same ownership and management. And he's like, no chance, never. It's like, well, here you are, Gio. Here's your never. We'll see what happens. Sant'Angelo, plug yourself. What are you writing? Anything for Football Italia coming out soon? Or
yeah, basically waiting for like league football to kind of kick back up. So you should see something for Football Italia next week. So anything I'm posting, make sure to follow me on Twitter at Matt_Sant'Angelo for that. Also, I don't know if you guys do Serie A football or like fantasy football. I do some fantasy content as well. So anything I do is on my Twitter. So make sure you guys follow me there.
Yeah, you can just follow me at Martino Puccio. Not that much anymore. Really getting away from there. The better stuff is on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. You just search up my name. There shouldn't be anyone else with that name that I know of. If there is, don't follow
Don't
them.
mistake him for Matteo Politano.
I don't know. I don't. There's like
Sorry.
I actually ripped down the Zelensky thing. I got rid of that. That was the other one that I was getting.
Zelensky, or the guy, the Ukrainian president.
The Ukrainian president.
I was thinking of Pyotr Zelensky, bro.
Oh no! Future West Ham player, probably.
Said it like Zelensky, like you said it like.
But it's like close though. They're very similar.
Yeah,
the last names, and I'm American, so this is what you get. But yeah, appreciate it. This was all pre-recorded, so please subscribe to the YouTube channel. This is where you're going to be watching it. The link will be tweeted out. This was just pre-recorded. Hopefully it's out tonight if we get a proper thumbnail. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Good luck to Napoli the rest of the season, and in our future matchups this month. Probably going to win all three. I hope to God that's not true, but we'll see what happens. Take care, guys.